The first thing my stepmother did after my father died was change the locks. Not for me, for my 9-year-old son. She said she needed space from reminders. What she really meant was she never forgave my father for leaving everything to the boy she called that child from another marriage. I didn't argue when she boxed up our family photos. I didn't argue when she removed my son's drawings from the refrigerator. And I definitely didn't argue on Thanksgiving morning when she looked my son in the eyes and said, "There isn't a seat for you this year." What she didn't know was that my father had spent 6 months preparing for exactly this moment, and hidden inside the old fishing tackle box in my trunk was a deed with my son's name on it. If you've ever watched someone smile while excluding a child, you already know this story is going to hurt. And if you've ever stayed quiet at a family table just to survive dinner, you'll understand exactly why I waited until dessert. My name is Rachel Mercer. I'm 38 years old, a trauma nurse from Milwaukee, and until last November, I still believed grief could make people kinder. I was wrong. My father, Thomas Mercer, died 3 days before Halloween after a sudden stroke. By the second week of November, Denise, my stepmother of 14 years, had already started dividing the house like my father had been dead for years instead of days. My son Caleb noticed first. Kids always do. The framed photo of him and Grandpa fishing disappeared from the hallway. Then the cereal he liked stopped appearing in the pantry. Then Denise started calling him Buddy instead of his name. That's how passive-aggressive people erase you in America, one small missing thing at a time. Caleb was 9, quiet, observant, too emotionally intelligent for a child his age. The night before Thanksgiving, he stood beside me while I washed dishes in our apartment kitchen. "Mom," he asked carefully, "does Grandma Denise not like me anymore?" I turned off the water. There are questions children ask where you can actually hear your own heart breaking. "It's complicated," I said softly. He nodded like he understood. That hurt worse, because children should never understand conditional love. The next morning, snow dusted Milwaukee sidewalks in thin white streaks. Caleb wore the navy sweater my father bought him last Christmas. Too big in the sleeves now, still smelling faintly like cedar from Grandpa's cabin. In the trunk of my Honda sat an old green tackle box with rust around the hinges. Dad had handed it to me in hospice 6 days before he died. "Only open it if Denise makes her choice," he whispered. Cars lined both sides of the street. Her church friends inside. My stepbrother Alan watching football. His wife recording TikToks in the kitchen. Nobody asked how Caleb was doing. Nobody asked how I was surviving 60-hour work weeks after losing my dad. That's the thing about family gatherings after funerals. Everyone acts normal because normal feels cheaper than grief. Denise opened the front door, wearing pearls and a cream-colored sweater like she was hosting a magazine photo shoot. "Oh," she said when she saw Caleb. "I hate people who start sentences with 'oh.' It means disappointment wrapped in fake lightness. We weren't expecting him." Caleb looked down immediately. I felt his hand tighten around mine. "He's my son," I said. Denise forced a smile. "Well, we're very full this year." Behind her, I counted chairs. 11 seats. 12 people. One missing chair. For him. Alan pretended not to notice. His wife suddenly became fascinated with deviled eggs. That's how cowards behave at family dinners. They look everywhere except the problem. Denise leaned closer to me. "There's a folding tray in the basement if he really needs somewhere." Needs somewhere. Like he was a dog. Before I could answer, Caleb spoke quietly. "It's okay, Mom. I can eat later." That sentence nearly destroyed me, because children only say things like that after disappointment becomes familiar. We went inside anyway. I kept hearing my father's voice in my head. If Denise makes her choice. By halftime of the football game, she had made it. Caleb wasn't included in conversation, wasn't included in photos, wasn't even included in grace before dinner. Then came the final cut. Denise handed small envelopes to Alan's daughters. Grandpa wanted the girls to have something special. Inside each envelope, $2,000 savings bonds. Caleb got nothing. Caleb got nothing. Not even a card. The room stayed silent. Every adult at that table chose comfort over courage. Again. Then Denise smiled at Caleb with that thin church lady smile and said, "You understand, sweetheart. Blood matters." The room went still. Alan stared at his plate. His wife stopped chewing. And my son, my beautiful, quiet little boy, simply nodded like he'd expected it all along. That was the moment I stopped protecting adults from consequences. I stood slowly, walked to the front door, opened it. Cold November air rushed inside. Then I carried the tackle box into the dining room and placed it directly in front of Denise's untouched pumpkin pie. "What's this?" she asked. I looked at Caleb. He looked terrified, but Grandpa had chosen him for this part, just like Walter chose Maya. "Go ahead, baby," I said gently. Caleb swallowed hard, then slid the tackle box toward her, and repeated the sentence we practiced all week. "Grandpa said you should read the papers before dessert." Denise laughed nervously. Nobody else did. She opened the box. Inside, a notarized property deed, a trust packet, and a handwritten letter from my father. I watched the color leave her face line by line. Finally, Alan spoke. "What is that?" Denise's hand started shaking, because the house, the entire house, had already been transferred into a living trust 3 months earlier. Beneficiary, Caleb Mercer. My father knew exactly who Denise was. The letter explained everything. If Denise ever attempted to exclude, remove, or emotionally isolate Caleb after his death, she would immediately lose lifetime residency rights, effective immediately. Alan grabbed the paperwork. His wife leaned over over his shoulder. Denise stood so fast her chair hit the wall. "This is manipulation," she snapped. "No," I said calmly. "This was preparation." Then Caleb did something I still think about every day. He walked over to Denise, and despite everything, despite all of it, he placed Grandpa's old house key on the table beside her hand. "You can still stay," he said softly, "if you want to be family." Nobody cried immediately. Real shame takes a minute to land. The only sound in the room was the football game still playing quietly in the other room. Then Alan finally looked at his mother and asked the question nobody had asked in 14 years. "Why would Dad need to protect Caleb from you?" Denise had no answer, because the truth sounds uglier when spoken out loud. We left before pie. Outside, snow had started falling harder. Caleb climbed into the passenger seat holding Grandpa's tackle box in his lap. "Mom? Yeah? Did Grandpa really trust me with the house?" I smiled. "No, baby. I started the engine. He trusted you with the family. And for the first time since my father died, Thanksgiving finally felt warm."